Hi everybody, Joanne Fedler here and welcome to day 3 of the 7-day online writing challenge. I hope you're all having an interesting time with today's exercise. I know that this is a tricky one. I know. I've done this exercise many times and it's not an easy place to get to, which is why I curated this experience in such a way that we do it only on day 3. I really appreciate that today's writing exercise of taking a mirror and spending time looking at your reflection is going to bring up a lot of stuff for you. That's good. I'm not scared of that, and it should. That's the whole point of this exercise. This is why we've called this a 7-day writing challenge, because if it was an easy thing for you to do, then what would be the point, right? I'm not asking you to write about stuff that's easy, because writing about stuff that's easy is generally stuff that's skimming along the surface, and that's just going to be cliche. What we're trying to get to here is some real stuff. So it's real when you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and take some time to get rid of the judgments and come to that exercise with softness instead of clenching, but just softness, and to really look. Incredibly confronting, I know. Not all of us have got happy relationships with the mirror. Some of us have got an all too, obsessive relationship with the mirror, but even that is not very kind. So this exercise should bring up a lot of stuff for you. I'm glad if it does. If it doesn't, well, maybe you need to look harder. Maybe tomorrow's exercise will bring some stuff up for you. I'm hoping it will. But stay with it. Lean into the discomfort. That's part of what helps us grow and stretch. The whole point of this challenge is that by the end of it, you will feel something different. You will feel something different. I want you to feel some changes at the end of this week. Otherwise, what was the whole point of it, right? I don't want you to be the same at the end. So in today's exercise, obviously when you come to it, come with gentleness, come with kindness, come neutrally. If you can't be gentle and kind, you can be gentle and kind. You know that you can. We can all be gentle and kind, often to other people. It's much harder to do for ourselves. But if you want to be a writer, you have to learn how to do that, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. This body image stuff really does get in our way when we are trying to write. As I said in today's video, when you're looking for your writing voice, it begins with the body. You start with being embodied. If you cannot be inside your body, your writing voice is just going to be some idea that you're trying to imagine. You're something you're trying to pull from somewhere else. You're not bringing it up from you. It is not from you. It's not from inside your skin. That's where we start when we start looking for the writing voice. So you have to repair that relationship with your body. You have to be inside your skin and know what it feels like to be you. You have to be able to do that. And let's just think about this, right? It's just a body after all, right? It's just a body. It's just something that we're carrying around. And if we're still completely consumed with how this defines who we are, it's very hard to go inwards and become a writer. Writing doesn't happen with this, right? This is just like padding. This is just the luggage. This is just the suitcase. What matters when it comes to writing is what is inside. So we've got to get beyond this to go inside, right? It doesn't matter what this looks like, what other people think it looks like, right? Do I care? Whether you are, 500 pounds or whether you're this skinny or whether you look like Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie, I couldn't give a shit what you look like. What I'm interested in is what is inside you and what you can bring out of you, what's going on in your spirit, what's going on in your soul. That's what makes you beautiful. Oh, God. I sound like One Direction, but really, it's such a cliche, but it is true. That's really where we're trying to get to, is inside your skin, right? We've got to get beyond this so that this absolutely doesn't matter, and find what does matter, which is inside. So the other thing about doing that is that we're not here to waste time. A lot of us imagine that we have a lot of time. A lot of people who say to me, oh, I want to write, but I don't have time. And I'm always like, well, Where do you think that time is going to come from? When do you think the time is ever going to be right? We don't have time. There is that beautiful saying, I think it was, some people have attributed it to the Buddha, but I've heard that it's not. But the quote is, the problem is you think you have time. Anne Lamott, who's one of my favorite writers, in one of her books, she writes about a friend who was she was dying of cancer or something, and Anne was going on about her cellulite or something, and her friend just looked at her and said, honey, you just don't have that kind of time. And I want to say the same to you. You just don't have that kind of time. If that is where you want to spend all of your time and your energy, you're not going to have time for the stuff that really matters. And what you're doing this week, the work that you're doing this week, this is what matters. This is what really matters. And you know that. I don't even need to tell you that. You absolutely know that what you are doing this week matters. You are getting in touch with something important. This is not important. It's irrelevant, actually. And it's just, why it's relevant is because it means you're still here, right? When this goes, you're not here anymore. So that's why it's important, and that's why we want to be in it, and that's why we want to be in love with it. In whatever shape it comes. We just want to be in love with it because it's the skin that we're in. It's the instrument of us being able to taste and touch and see and hear and be in this magical world and sneeze and have an orgasm and feel the sea against our skin and all of that. That's where writing begins. It begins here. So let's love what we've got, right? We need to be embodied. Another thing I just want to say, just something that's come up for me, you know, when I was a student many, many years ago, I studied at Yale for a year, and I was very friendly with a guy called Van Jones, who has actually become a famous CNN reporter. He's turned out to be a famous CNN reporter, but back then he was just a very smart student. We were very friendly, and we were involved in student politics. And I remember having a conversation with him about how ashamed I was of being a white, privileged South African, woman, and how difficult that was for me. And he just looked at me and he said, nobody trusts self-hating politics. Get over it. And I remember at the time realizing that was absolutely true. That self-hatred, nobody is interested in your self-hatred. It doesn't inspire confidence in anybody. It doesn't make anyone trust you. In fact, what it does is it detracts from your trustworthiness. So the same thing comes to us when we're writing. We have got, if we are filled with self-hatred, that's the basis from which we are writing. Can you see how that will never connect with a reader? Because nobody's interested in your self-hatred. Writing is about self-compassion. And so the work we have to do to become the writers that we want to become, the writers who have got a vision of life that our writing is in service to, a writer who's not narcissistically, self-indulgently overwhelmed with self-hatred all the time, the work is not in the writing. The work is in self-repair. The work is in self-compassion. If you cannot come to your writing with self-compassion, you cannot write about anything with love. And nobody will trust your judgment, because if you can't love yourself, as RuPaul says, you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? So you have got to come to the writing, and that's why I get you to start with that face in the mirror. Try and find a softness when you're looking into it. Try and find a way in which you can connect with that person, that spirit, beyond what it is that you see, and try and peel away some of those layers and bring some gentleness, some softness, some warmth into that gaze, because you cannot write about anything if you do not come with compassion. You will always have judgments about other people, and this is one of the problems that I find in writing, is that people who write in a way that doesn't connect are coming from a place of self-hatred. And connection is one of the fundamental things that I teach you to do. You have to be connected to yourself, and you have to be connected to your reader, and you have to be connected to your subject matter. But you can only do that with compassion. You cannot connect out of a place of neurosis or self-hatred. So those are important things for me to reiterate today. All writing begins with self-compassion. So I know that there's a tricky exercise, and some of you have been incredibly, incredibly brave today going in there where it is very scary territory. Think about this. Isn't this quite a thing to think about? How looking at our own reflection in the mirror can be so terrifying. Wow. Just sit with that for a minute. Just be with that. Like the resonance of that. Looking at myself in the mirror is terrifying. I've had people in workshops do this exercise where they can't and they just cry for the full 2 minutes. That breaks my heart. Truly, that breaks my heart. So, if nothing else, if all I get you to do this week is to look in the mirror for 2 minutes and just strip away just some of that feeling of, oh, just soften into it and just look at that face and go, okay, there you are. Hi. Hello. Might be the first time you've actually met that face properly without having all these judgments. So, there is that. Now, this relates now to some of the questions that came up and some of the comments that people posted in the Facebook group today. One was about perfectionism and what do we do with our perfectionism and wanting to put ourselves out into the world. Well, a lot of the work that I do with writers is to help unlock them from perfectionism. Perfectionism is not going to get you anywhere. If you are a perfectionist, what I'm going to try to teach you to do is to be really okay with things being imperfect, because that perfectionism comes from exactly this thing that we've spoken about today, today's exercise, where things have got to be perfect. I've got to look at my face and it's got to be perfect. If you can come to things and realize that things are not perfect, you'll be able to be vulnerable. If we're perfectionists, we will never put our work out into the world because we're sitting in critical self-judgment of ourselves all the time. So part of becoming a writer is about becoming robust enough to say, yep, this is what I've written. I like it. I hope you like it. But if you don't, that's okay too, right? We don't want to be in a place where what other people think about us is what defines what we write about or what we can put out into the world. Obviously, I don't want you to go and put shitty writing out into the world. That's not what I'm saying. You need to learn how to write well. But you know what? Everybody's going to have a different opinion about what you do in the end. And so you are the one, I'm trying to get you to trust you at a certain point. You're like, you know what? This is pretty good. I like this. And I'm putting it out into the world. And I knew that I was an author. I knew. The day that I knew that I was an author was when my first novel came out, and I had a friend of mine who wanted to talk to me about what she didn't like about the book. And we sat down and she gave me a whole lot of list of things that she didn't like. And I went, okay, that's your opinion. I like it. And you're going to need that kind of robustness when you put your book out there and you've got reviews, and some people are going to shred what you've written and some people are going to love what you've written. You cannot be affected by what other people think. I'm trying to bring you back into your skin. What do you think? Trust yourself. Learn to trust yourself, because that is what is going to carry you through into getting your book out into the world in a way that you can stand in it and own it. So, yeah. I work a lot with this idea of perfectionism in my online writing course, because I know that for many of us it's a thing. I suffer a little bit from it too. I'm Virgo, so I like things to be perfect, but I'm actually also very messy. So thank goodness for that, because otherwise, I would be completely cramped up. But I know how it feels, and I have great compassion for perfectionists. Some other questions that came up, comments were, at the end of these 7 days, will the content for this 7-day writing challenge be available? And the answer is no. This is a 7-day challenge. It is only available for these 7 days. So that is why it starts on the 25th and ends on the 31st. And I'm giving you all the content, and I want you to participate. This is not something to put off till it suits you or it is a better time, because now we know there is no better time. This is the only time. At the end of the 7 days, the content will be gone. So use it and make the most of it. That's how we must be in life. There is this moment, and we want to be right in this moment right now. The other thing that I have offered all of you is, in today's email out, is if you want to connect and ask any particular question, talk about your writing with me or member of my team, you have the opportunity to do that. Now, at the end, I've made myself available for these 7 days to be available to answer any questions, any queries, to be in that Facebook group. But this is, I just want to say this, it is unusual for me to be this available. I normally never make myself this available to this many people. To write, I have to go inwards, and at the end of these 7 days, I will retreat. This will be the end. The gates will shut, right? I'm going to need to go away. I'm going to need to regroup. I'm going to need to get back into my skin, and So what I'm saying to you is this is your window of opportunity to ask me anything. At the end of these 7 days, I'm going to ask you please not to send me personal emails or personal Facebook messages, but if you have any queries, to go through my team, admin@joannefedler.com. I just get overwhelmed with queries and requests and emails and all this kind of thing, so I don't deal with those at all. So for these 7 days, you've got me. I'm here and I am all yours, but at the end of the 7 days, that changes. I have a group of writers that I mentor, and my attention is basically all for them this year. So use me while you've got me. That's what I'm saying. If you have any queries, you want to chat about your writing, you've got a specific question, this is your time to ask. Some other questions or comments were, what about, can you help us get a publisher or introduce me to a publisher? Now, here's the thing. We're not there yet, right? We're still learning how to write. We're not thinking about publishing at this point. I want to help you to get to a place where you are writing something that is deeply yours, that connects with a reader, that is in your skin, something that reflects your experience. I'm not even thinking about publishing. This is what happens to us when we start writing. We start to say, but I've written stuff and I want to get a publisher, so I'm not going to finish it because I'm so despondent, because I'm probably not going to get a publisher. Can you see how what we've done there is we've given up before we've even started, because you're worrying about how am I going to get a publisher. That is a much later step, and that is not being in your skin. You need to be where you are right now, and where you are right now is in day 3 of a 7-day writing challenge in your body. So let's gather ourselves back into our bodies and think about how to write the best thing that we can write, how we can write from an authentic place, because the truth is that to get a publisher, you have got to have a unique writing voice. You shouldn't even be thinking about looking for a publisher until you have written the best damn manuscript that you possibly can have written. So worrying about things that have not yet happened or are not even realistic at this point is just distraction from what you're doing this week, which is to work out how to write. So we get caught up in these ideas that are not relevant right now. I just want you to try and reel yourself back and stay in the challenge. I have curated this challenge in a very careful way. I haven't just chucked 7 ideas together. This has taken me a year of work to put this 7-day challenge together. It is, all my teaching, all my thinking, all of my teaching experience over the last 10 years, curated very carefully into the lessons in the order in which you are doing them. And so trust me that I am leading you on the path that will get you to a place where you are writing from an authentic place. Once you're writing from an authentic place, once you've found your writing voice, you know what you're writing about, then we can start to worry about, first of all, how do I finish my manuscript? How do I structure it? How do I write great character? How do I weave theme through it? Have I got through lines? What is the difference between plot and structure? All of these things have got to be thought about long before we start thinking about publishers. Now, the truth is I do introduce writers to publishers, but the people that I introduce to publishers are people who have come on writing retreats with me, people that I mentor, people whose writing I know. So if I don't know you and I haven't read any of your writing, there is no way that I can contact. I have relationships with lots of publishers all over the world, but I could never just email them and say, listen, there's this writer, they've written this thing, they think it's great, I haven't read any of it, are you interested in looking at it? Imagine, I would just destroy my relationships with all those publishers. So what I do is I mentor a group of writers. I have a program called the Author Liftoff Program, and it's by special invitation only. I invite people who've been on writing retreats with me and people who have done my online courses and who I've mentored. So I know that by the time a publisher looks at their writing, there's a wonderful writing voice, the story is tight, the characters are well developed, it's well conceived. So if you want to become part of this inner circle of mine, there are ways of doing that. But I can't just, on your word, because you've written a manuscript and, even if it's been edited and, you've submitted it to publishers, I just cannot introduce you to publishers. My group of writers that I'm busy mentoring, by the way, who have, invested like 2 or 3 or 4 years of their time working together with me, I have got publishers coming to a writing workshop in October where they're all going to get a chance to pitch to those publishers. But I have worked really closely with each one of them. I know their writing intimately. I'm deeply invested in them. So by special invitation, if you have worked with me over a period of time, you will be able to take part in the Author Liftoff program. I will talk more about that towards the end of this week, because there is a competition to win a scholarship to do my online course, which would be the next step if that is where you want to go. But for today, let's forget about all of that. Let's stay in today's exercise. Let's stay in what we're doing so that we can focus on the task at hand, which is to write the best stuff that can come from us, so that we can find our voice and express what it is that we need to put out into the world. Okay, I think I have responded to all of the comments that have been left and all of the queries that have been left. So all that's left for me to do today is to award the next pack of writing prompt cards to somebody, and the person that I am going to award it to is Louise Bennett, because this was based on the lists exercise. Louise, I'm just having a look at the comment that you left. You said you were not a big you're not a big list person, except maybe shopping lists, but you were surprised at how quick the lists generated. You tried the things that you regret, and it surprised you how many regrets you had. And then, of course, you said it made you look at yourself and ask hard questions that needed to be answered. So I am going to... the other thing that you wrote was that you stopped and you listened to your body, how it was reacting to your words. You noticed you felt light in the chest, warm, and even excited writing certain lists compared to others. For someone who thought that lists were silly, this has been an amazing breakthrough. So I think that you deserve a pack of cards, Louise. So that's it, guys. Again, just to remind you, if you want me to answer your particular question this week, you have this window. We're in day 3, so there are 4 more days left. Please send a personal inquiry about anything that you need answered, and I will be sure to answer it personally, or I will, if I think that it's something that other people want to hear, I will talk about it in the next Facebook Live, which will be tomorrow. So today was a hard exercise. Tomorrow is also a hard exercise. It could be hard. It could be. Go in gently, and I really look forward to seeing what comes out of it. Take care and have a wonderful Saturday.